Good morning. You're here just in time. Here we go.
I don't believe in the no-win scenario.
Good morning, my friend. The marketplace of ideas is open. Welcome to the Greg Belfrage Show, Thursday, May 1st. Great to have you along this morning. So, big story this morning. The president talking about what he and Vladimir Zelensky discussed during their meeting at the Vatican, and what they wound up doing is signing this minerals deal. Remember, this is the minerals deal that Zelensky had come to the United States to sign, and it wound up with that just bizarre Oval Office. You know, many of us thought Zelensky was just wildly disrespectful in that Oval Office meeting, and the president just is, you know, very unflappable, as Trump always is. Very unflappable, just stays the course. And I had a vision of Dana Carvey as George H.W. Bush, you know, stay the course, million points of light. So this is the way my mind works. So anyway, the minerals deal it's a done deal. So Zelensky is, I think he posted, I don't think I grabbed the right story here. This story actually is incredibly, forgive me, badly written. So this was, Trump was talking about what he told Zelensky during their meeting at the Vatican. They did sign the minerals deal. That's a big story this morning, and you're hearing a lot about that from Fox News Radio. So it's less than, you know, being able to come up with an agreement to end the war in Ukraine. However, it puts the United States in a position where we've got more clout. Now we've got a minerals deal with Ukraine. We have interests in Ukraine, and the question will be as to whether or not that's a game changer. Now that the United States has those interests in Ukraine. So it's not, I think, what a lot of us have been hoping for. We've been hoping to see an end to the war in the Ukraine. We're not there yet, but will this be a significant step toward making that happen and demonstrating to Russia that the United States here now is invested in Ukraine, got a partnership with Ukraine? Will that be a game changer? We'll see. That's a big story this morning. Also, you have Kamala Harris rising from the grave. She returned to the political scene with a speech last night, and she's slamming the Trump administration in their first 100 days. And she said, now, I know tonight's event happens to coincide with the 100 days after the inauguration. I'll leave others to give a full accounting of what has happened so far, but I will say this: instead of the administration working to advance, excuse me, working to advance America's highest ideals, we are witnessing the wholesale abandonment of those ideals. And, you know, it's interesting to see that when it comes to Kamala Harris, nothing has changed. Not that I expected anything to. So she's back and giving this speech. This was a speech at the 20th anniversary gala of Emerge in San Francisco. So Emerge is an organization then that helps Democratic women run for office. And she did not address rumors that she may be considering a run for governor of California. She did offer her own words of wisdom, and she referenced, and this story had gone viral. It's one that I shared with you at the time, that viral video of those elephants at the San Diego Zoo during the earthquake, where they were forming a circle and protecting, and so Kamala Harris referenced that. And she said, here those elephants were. And as soon as they felt the earth shaking beneath their feet, they cut in a circle and stood next to each other to protect the most vulnerable. She said that was a powerful metaphor because we know those who try to incite fear are most effective. She should talk. Those who try to incite fear are most effective when they divide and conquer, when they separate the herd, when they try to make everyone think they are alone. But in the face of crisis, the lesson is don't scatter, she said during the speech. And so leave it to the New York Post. They've got a headline this morning on this story, but this is typical of the New York Post. Dystopian Dumbo. It's a, of course, right beneath that photo of Kamala Harris. Now, they're not referring, Dumbo. Are they referring to her as Dumbo, or are they referencing the elephant story that she shared? Dystopian Dumbo just made me laugh. All right, also this morning, Secretary of State Marco Rubio saying yesterday during a cabinet meeting at the, hold on a second, because I had it, my stack of stuff that here we go. This is a big South Dakota story this morning. Let's touch on this first before I get to some of the other stories. And you've heard the Kello.com news team talking about this South Dakota ranching family that was targeted by the federal government. Charles and Heather Maud facing criminal charges, possible prison time, large fines, and it was all over a fence. And it was the U.S. Forest Service that there are a number of stories regarding this. In fact, you had the state's congressional delegation and other state leadership, the governor, all this week out. The prosecution of this family is what it boils down to. South Dakota rancher, Biden administration, going after the South Dakota family over their fence. And the Trump administration now dropping the whole matter. They are dropping it. So they dropped it. Now, these were criminal charges over a fence that has actually been in place, since the early 1900s, I think. So, I mean, this fence has been in place for decades. It's been in place since the early 20th century. And the family talked about this, as well as you had others who were responding to this. And this is starting now to get national attention. I saw a story this morning at the Post Millennial. There are other places that are picking this up. Story at yahoo.com over this. And these were Biden era charges that the Trump administration now has dropped. And this is worth discussing. This Brooke Rollins, who is the nation's ag secretary, she said, over-criminalization by the federal government is over, capital letters. Regulation by prosecution is no more, she said. And then she said during the meeting, talked about the Maud family from South Dakota. And that over this fence that had been in place then since, early in the 20th century, and she said there had never been really any problem that had been brought to their attention. Perhaps there was a minor dispute over, again, 25 acres. This family was indicted, prosecuted, threatened with jail time, told to find guardians for their children over a fence line dispute that the Biden DOJ pushed forward. And she said that her and Kristi Noem met with the family in Washington, D.C. on Tuesday. Rollins wrote an op-ed for the Wall Street Journal on the charges being dropped. Again, 25 acres. And their property runs alongside the Buffalo Gap National Grasslands, which is administered by the U.S. Forest Service. So the boundary between the two lands was poorly demarcated, but the family had an informal agreement with the Forest Service that allowed their family to graze cattle. And so then the Biden administration comes in, conducts a survey of the boundary, does not inform the family about the results, accuse them of theft of government property. And Rollins said that in addition to dropping the charges against the Maud family, I am also ordering that all USDA pursuits of other Americans in similar situations be immediately halted. So you've got the Trump administration announcing yesterday that these federal charges that the U.S. Forest Service has been pushing would be dropped. So these ranchers, Charles and Heather Maud, faced 10 years in prison, a $250,000 fine over what many of us believe to be a very minor issue involving this fence and their property, being next to the Buffalo Gap National Grasslands. And this is, we've got to talk about this. Now, coming up tomorrow, Tom Rooney is working on putting, you have heard the Kello.com news team sharing that story here since yesterday. And Tom and I had a conversation yesterday off the air regarding this, and he was letting me know about the putting something together for me. So he's going to be working on that today, and I'll feature that tomorrow, and we'll open up the phone lines tomorrow. I also want to talk about it today. This is just a huge story, and it's absolutely incredible. And this is, these are the kinds I fear that are going to be in store for America moving forward. And this is the kind of world that the Democrats, the Biden administration, I think that the Democrats and the deep state, this is where they want to go, to this kind of extremely heavy-handed, just unreasonable, outrageous kind of behavior. So we're going to talk about that coming up this morning. That's a very big story throughout the state. So we'll touch on that. Okay, I mentioned Secretary of State Marco Rubio, the cabinet meeting at the White House yesterday. And here you go again. As we talk about what's going on with the deep state, yeah, I'm using that word. Rubio said yesterday that the Biden administration State Department kept dossiers on Americans accused as serving as, quote, vectors of disinformation, unquote, including a file on a Trump administration official, but Rubio wouldn't say who it was. But he did say it's somebody sitting at this table. He said, we had an office in the Department of State whose job it was to censor Americans. And by the way, I'm not going to say who it is. I'll leave it up to them. So apparently this person knows who they are. And he says, I'll leave it up to them. There's at least one person at this table today who had a dossier in that building of social media posts to identify them as purveyors of disinformation. We have these dossiers. We're going to be turning those over to the individuals. So Marco Rubio saying, we've got this information the government has collected because the government is viewing them as purveyors of disinformation. And we're not releasing that information except to the people involved. Here's the folders, here's the dossier. It's yours, which is absolutely incredible. And I've got to tell you now, the Trump cabinet meetings, this is something that's very much on my mind. You take a look at the stories. The Hill and Coulter knocks the Kim Jong-un style tributes at Trump cabinet meeting. The Raw Story, a CNN expert analyzes Trump's cabinet meeting interaction with Pete Hegseth. Social media calls out North Korea vibes at Trump cabinet meeting. Love fest or cabinet meeting? For Donald Trump, it's both. And this just goes on with the legacy media. And I was searching news, and I just searched, okay, Trump cabinet meeting. This is at DuckDuckGo. Trump cabinet meeting, boom. And these are all the stories that come up. These are the top stories that come up. And that some love fest or cabinet meeting, I mean, that's just absolutely incredible when you see that. We'll get into that in more detail this morning. Outside of politics, there was a fan who fell onto the field, the baseball field, during the Pirates game, who was in critical condition, fell 21 feet onto the playing field. Pretty scary scene. And this happened yesterday during the Pirates-Cubs game. So apparently this is a man who was in the first row of the right field bleachers, fell from his seat and onto the warming track. And then other fans jumped down to help. They had to attend to the person for about 5 minutes. Now, this is stadium personnel who were quickly on the scene, and the fan was in critical condition after the fall, and so they're looking into what happened. So that also is a very big story this morning. You've got Hunter Biden very abruptly dropping his lawsuit against the IRS. This was yesterday. Now, this was the Biden lawsuit against the two IRS whistleblowers who they've alleged that DOJ was trying to stonewall the tax fraud investigation into Hunter Biden. So now he is very abruptly dropped his lawsuit. You've got the Bill Belichick story that just will not go away. Headline this morning at the New York Post, Bill Belichick's daughter-in-law shades Jordan Hudson as the CBS interview drama grows. Really? I mean, you're going to have to drag me into that kicking and screaming. That story's trending. I'll have more details for you coming up. Also, a headline from the New York Post this morning, Kilmar Abrego Garcia bragged that he could kill his wife and get away with it. She claimed this in her protective order request, bragging that he could kill her and get away with it. Those are the claims she's making. Now we're learning about them. That's a big story this morning. Here's the story I was looking for about Ukraine officially signing a deal with the United States, providing, and forgive me because I just ran out of time a little bit this morning as I was putting things together. Ukraine officially signing that deal. Rare earth minerals are used in missile guidance systems, radar, jet engines, number of different things. Also, they are used in manufacturing smartphones, computers, and much, much more. So I think that is a big story this morning. They created a joint U.S.-Ukrainian fund, which is said to be a 50-50 split in profits and royalties accrued from the mined minerals. The U.S. will be given preferential access to the resources. So that's a look at the big stories this morning. 6:27. Great to have you along. Thanks so much for starting your day with us. This hour of the Greg Belfrage Show brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month. Right now, cloudy and 50. You're listening to the Greg Belfrage Show on Kello.
Robbins, weekdays at 2. Kello, News Talk 1320, 107.9.
The Kello Hotline is sponsored by Tires, with 2 locations to make sure.
I just got a whole boatload of stuff to share with you this morning.
The South Dakota Farm Bureau would like to say thank you for everything you do. The busy spring season is filled with long hours in the field. Farm Bureau reminds you to take care of yourself.
Hakeem Jeffries wants Democrats to nix their trips to El Salvador. Yeah, no more of that. We got that's.
Tour beautiful homes and the brand new clubhouse Sunday, May 4th from 11:30 to 1:30. 15:30 North.
You got Tim Walz, who's out there again. Why Kamala Harris picked him as her running mate. He could code talk to white guys. He could, because he never did to me. he never reached me. Never has. Just gets more and more off the wall.
Don't drink and drive. Brought to you by the South Dakota Office of Highway
Okay.
South Dakota Broadcasters Association and this station.
Seems everything costs more these days. Gas, groceries, and when's the last time you checked your wireless bill? When it comes to big wireless, if
phone,
you're staying,
where's
you
my
could be
phone?
overpaying. Switch to Consumer Cellular and get your second month free for a limited time. You'll get the same fast, reliable nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill. Plans start at just $20 a month. Here's Veronica and Jackie, real customers.
I didn't know that I could get something for a lot less money that was actually better than what I was with before.
Anytime anybody complains about their cell phone bill, we say, you've got to check out Consumer Cellular. And now for a limited time, new customers can get their second month free when they use promo code SECONDFREE. Just call.
Hey, Robert, glad to hear your wife is okay.
Because when it comes to big wireless, if you're staying, you may be over.
Those things are stressful, man.
Freedom, visit a store near you or consumercellular.com and use code SECONDFREE to get a free second month. Real people pay to share their opinions.
All right, here we go. Great to have you along this morning. 6:30, cloudy and 50. Joe Bowman is in the Kello.com News Center. Coming up, South Dakota teachers are saying a pay boost. Also, Governor Larry Roden has declared May National Military Appreciation Month in South Dakota. Details on those stories and more coming up in moments.
I'm Chris Foster.
A deal's announced for the U.S. and Ukraine to jointly invest in and profit from Ukraine's natural resources like rare earth minerals, oil, and gas. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent on Fox.
We have a chance to participate, get some of the funding and the weapons, compensation for those, and be partners with the success of the Ukraine people.
Its government says it will decide what and where to extract. The Senate barely defeats a resolution meant to end the national emergency President Trump declared to impose widespread tariffs.
3 Republicans, Senators Lisa Murkowski, Rand Paul, and Susan Collins joining all present Democrats in supporting it. The disapproval resolution comes amid concerns over how tariffs on nearly all U.S. trading partners will impact the economy.
Fox's Kristen Goodman. The vote was 49-49 with 2 Republicans not present and a tie-breaking vote cast by Vice President Vance. America's listening to Fox News.
Weather brought to you by Infinity Sedation Dentistry, Sioux Falls. They fix your teeth while you sleep.
Kello News Time, 6:31. I'm Joe Bowman in the Kello.com News Center. South Dakota teachers are seeing a pay boost. The state has jumped from 49th up to 46th in the National Teacher Salary Rankings. Average pay is now just under $59,000, up about $2,500 from last year. Education officials say it's proof recent investments in public schools are making a difference. From possible prison time and heavy fines to case dismissed, Charles and Heather Maude and family celebrated in Washington, D.C. yesterday as the Trump administration dismissed a criminal case over a minor land dispute with the U.S. Forest Service. Helping them celebrate was a neighbor from 70 miles down the road, Governor Larry Roden.
The Maude family's been put through hell by the overreaching federal government. And today we restore sanity, we restore fairness and justice. And we send a clear message to the American people that this administration stands with you.
The case involved the placement of a fence on land the Maude family has ranched since 1910. Governor Roden, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, and the state's congressional delegation all played a role in getting the case dismissed. Governor Larry Roden has declared May National Military Appreciation Month in South Dakota. He's partnering with the Department of Veterans Affairs to encourage South Dakotans to honor and recognize both past and present service members. The month includes several key dates, starting today with Loyalty Day, followed by Military Spouse Appreciation Day on the 9th and Armed Forces Day on the 17th. And big changes to parking in downtown Sioux Falls start today. Meters will now be enforced 6 days a week, including Saturdays from 9 to 5. A new text-to-park payment option also launches. Plus, vehicles over 18 feet long can no longer park on Phillips Avenue between 9th and 13th. From the Kello.com News Center, I'm Joe Bowman.
The news never stops. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9.
Partly sunny skies today with a high of 68 with that north wind at 15 to 30 and a few scattered showers and isolated thunder showers still in the forecast. Low tonight 45 and evening thunder showers still possible. Tomorrow's high 63 with a north wind at 10 to 20 and 70s likely this weekend. From the Storm Center at Kettleland TV, I'm meteorologist Brian Karstens.
Our business is news and business is good. Kello News Talk 1320, 107.9 and Kello.com.
It's now a federal crime to post real or even fake sexually explicit images of a person online without their consent. Here's what you need to know. I'm Kim Commando for Fast Growing Trees. Spring is here. Get an additional 15% off your first purchase when you use code Kim at checkout. FastGrowingTrees.com, code Kim. The vote in Congress was 409, with 2 voting against. Makes you wonder about the 2. Eric Burleson of Missouri and Thomas Massey of Kentucky. 14-year-old Allison Berry's classmate used an AI app to create fake sexually explicit images of her. He then sent them to all her classmates. Eventually, the images were posted to Snapchat, and Allison's small-town life was turned upside down.
Who does that stuff,
Snapchat
man?
refused to remove them until U.S. Senator Ted Cruz got involved. Now, Snapchat eventually did, but not before they were copied millions of times. If this happens to you, the law is on your side, but the internet is forever. Hey, sign up for my free newsletter at getkim.com. Did you know that Fast Growing Trees is America's largest online nursery? Yup, over 6,000 varieties of indoor and outdoor plants, plus more than 2 million happy customers. Whether you're after fruit trees, evergreens, houseplants, or something unique, they've got it all. No matter what your yard looks like or what your dreaming could be, Fast Growing Trees has you covered. I ordered an avocado tree for my backyard, and it's perfect. No green thumb? No problem. On top of their Alive and Thrive guarantee, they offer free plant consultation forever. Save 90% on landscaping costs when you DIY and get plants delivered directly from fastgrowingtrees.com right now. Save up to 50% on select plants. And as a Kim Commando listener, you get an additional 15% off your first purchase when you use code KIM at checkout. That's an additional 15% off at fastgrowingtrees.com using code KIM. That's fastgrowingtrees.com for an additional 15% off using the code KIM.
The Kim Commando Show, live Saturday mornings at 9. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9.
The Kello Hotline is brought to you by Tires, making your vehicle ride like new. 2 Sioux Falls Tire and Automotive Centers. Visit tires3.com.
Summer's coming fast, so let's clear space and fire up the grill. Get 10% off ready-to-drink wines and Dakota Butcher meats with a 2-item match. 49th Street Liquor, your May HQ for meat and drinks. On the corner of 49th and Minnesota.
Bring charm from the outdoors into your home with Renewal by Andersen picture and combination windows. Optimizing a beautiful view and light in the bedroom, kitchen, or living room from ABC Seamless of Sioux Falls. Call 605-646-2667 today. That's ABC Seamless.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down. Get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pegol is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Price varies based on product and subscription claim.
Hey guys, let's talk ED because millions of men experience it, but not everyone can access or afford treatments like Viagra. HIMS can help. Through HIMS.com, you can access a full range of treatment options for ED through a 100% online process. To start your free online visit and save up to 95%, go to HIMS.com/joy.
Forgive me, this is the time of the week when I start dragging a little bit.
Are you tired of high cable TV rates? Sign up for Dish today and get a $500 bonus offer while supplies last. Plus, lock in your price for 2 years guaranteed. Call All American Dish, your Dish authorized retailer now.
800-296-1251. 800-296-1251. That's 800-296-1251.
Offers require credit qualification, 24-month commitment, early termination fee, and auto pay. Restrictions apply. Call for details.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textline.us. Texting rules for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message data rates may apply. Reply stop, opt out. Consult a doctor prior to use.
Looking to get prescribed medication.
By the way, yeah, I hear, Steve, I hear what you're saying.
And even if you don't, and 100% online. It's simple. Just text coverage.
Not my show.
300 to get started.
This is my show. Not my show. I just let him do his thing.
Medication if prescribed. No insurance, no problem. Zelty can ship semaglutide or tirzepatide, the active ingredients in Ozempic and Zepbound, for as little as $151 a month versus $1,000 plus for name brand medications. Either way, it's high quality medical care. Weight loss coaching.
Lots of things happening I don't understand.
All 100% online with Zelty.
Lots of people with viewpoints. I'm like, what?
200-300 to get started today on your weight loss journey with Zelty. Text now for a link to your exclusive offer. Text coverage to 200.
By the way, I hope you notice I'm a lot less guarded in these conversations with you than I am when I'm on the air. When I'm on the air, I'm representing my employer. Here on YouTube, this is my page, not the company page. It's my page. So I can speak more freely and, with you than I would than when I'm on the air. Here we go. All right, 20 minutes before 7. Cloudy skies and 50. This hour of the Greg Belfrage Show brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month.
What's trending now?
Add them on Facebook.
Let the tweeting begin. The hashtag does that. News and views from Belf's News Gallery.
Well, the United States and Ukraine have reached an agreement giving the United States access to Ukraine's natural resources. This is that minerals deal we've been talking about for a while. It's the one that Vladimir Zelensky was going to sign, and he went to the White House. And instead, turned everything all upside down. Wound up leaving without signing the agreement. My understanding was, he was going to come back and sign the agreement before he left the United States. That never happened. And they did. Now, they have signed it. They signed it yesterday. And Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent expressing enthusiasm. And he said, this will be a signal to Russia that the Trump administration is committed to a peace process centered on a free, sovereign, and prosperous Ukraine over the long term. Yeah, I think it will be clear. Now, this is not what the Trump administration, I think, has wanted. What they have wanted is a cessation of hostilities between Ukraine and Russia. This is not that, but it's certainly a step in that direction. And now that the United States has got that minerals deal with Ukraine, might it put the war in Ukraine between Russia and Ukraine in another perspective? Might the Russians now think twice before they start going after Ukraine, knowing that the United States is involved in this partnership with them? We'll see. Also, the first U.S. economic growth figures coming out, economists had largely expected growth at 0.3%. Instead, the economy shrank at an annualized rate of 0.3% between January and March, its worst performance for 3 years. And the president, reacting to this, he said he blamed Joe Biden. He said he inherited a mess. His administration has brought in investment worth $8 trillion. And so he says these numbers really belong to the Biden administration. And again, as the president said, he wasn't even sworn in until January 20th. Some of this, though, is due to the tariffs. Always wonderful to hear the former Biden people out there trying to prop up Joe Biden. Andrew Bates said that Trump was handed the best performing economy in the world by Joe Biden. Right? That's why the government was spending all kinds of money to try to prop the economy up, because it was the best performing economy in the world. Right. Also, the president saying yesterday, we're talking about tariffs. He said, tariffs could result in fewer and costlier products here in the United States. China makes a lot of toys. I've talked about this because, I'm a toy collector. I wind up buying toys from China, a number of which have been they're American companies, but these companies have their toys manufactured in China. And so the president responding to this saying American kids might have 2 dolls now instead of 30 dolls. But he just continues to say China is going to suffer a lot more from this trade war. That as much as Americans may be hurt, China is going to be hurt much more. So he also blamed Joe Biden for any setbacks, told his cabinet yesterday that his tariffs meant China was having tremendous difficulty because their factories are not doing business. And he said the U.S. really did not need imports from China. He said, somebody said, oh, the shelves are going to be open. Well, maybe the children who have $2 instead of $30. So maybe the $2 will cost a couple of bucks more than they normally would. So we'll see how long this goes on. Also, a man is in critical condition. He fell from the stands at the Pittsburgh Pirates game. Fell about 20 feet from the stands to the ground. This was at the Pirates home game yesterday, and the man was seen tumbling in the air before he landed on the warning track area of the field, and they had to stop the game. This was right during the 7th inning. Stop the game. Players obviously shocked. You don't expect to see somebody falling out of the stands. Well, he was taken to the hospital. He's in critical condition, and the Pirates released statements regarding this, thanking, officials, EMS officials and others for responding very quickly. And one person said the whole thing happened fast. And he said it was quick. I couldn't tell if he jumped or fell, this man said. Also, there's a story involving 11 high school lacrosse players this is in New York State. They're suspected of being involved in hazing a teammate, and they turned themselves in. So they will be arraigned. The non-juvenile students would be arraigned. The juveniles will go straight to family court. They face misdemeanor charges of unlawful imprisonment, but this went like way beyond hazing. If you dive into any of the reports of what actually happened, this is way beyond hazing. It's so they turned themselves in and avoided kidnapping charges. And authorities are, they took one player out apparently into the woods, and they had people there pretending to be kidnappers. They were dressed in black, wielding, one wielded what appeared to be a handgun and at least one knife. Some of the victims were able to escape. Authorities said one of the students couldn't flee. They put a pillowcase over his head, tied him up, threw him in the trunk of the car before ditching him in another wooded part of the country. And so the DA said, I've seen the videotape of what happened to this young man. It is not a rite of passage. It is not a trivial matter. I don't know how long this young man will be affected by what happened to him. Yeah, that's absolutely crazy. People just don't know where lines are anymore. It's not just children. It's not just young Americans. I mean, it's all over the place. You could see somebody in their 70s doing exactly the same kind of thing. People just do not know where the lines are anymore. It's disturbing to me. Also, the House passed a bill regarding revenge porn and deepfakes. Digital exploitation of girls and women soon will be illegal. Pretty overwhelming support for this. It's called the Take It Down Act. Requires platforms to remove sexually explicit images within 48 hours of being notified. Failure to comply leads to penalties, and if the images involve minors, the person responsible could face up to 3 years in prison. So Senator Ted Cruz and Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota teamed up on the bill last year. So there was some initial gridlock. First Lady Melania Trump got behind this. and is one of the reasons why it really brought people together. Her Be Best initiative is focused on online safety and youth mental health. So she went to Capitol Hill to show her support for the bill. Melania Trump said it's heartbreaking to witness young teens, especially girls, grappling with the overwhelming challenges posed by malicious online content like deepfakes, she said. Also, one of the Supreme Court's last argued cases of the previous term may turn out to be one of its most significant. The court yesterday heard arguments over whether states can insist that charter schools, which they all define as public schools, be non-sectarian. So nearly every state offers charter schools, and they're trying to provide an alternative model for public education, this free public education. So like traditional public schools, charter schools may not charge tuition. They're funded directly by the state, and they're regulated in the same kinds of ways. So this has become an issue. You have private organizations then contracting to establish and operate charter schools, and the U.S. Supreme Court likely to be hearing more about that. Also, a federal judge yesterday ordered the release of an anti-Israel protester who helped organize riots and protests at Columbia University. So authorities with ICE had detained this green card holder earlier this month in Vermont, and a U.S. district judge ordered his release. And as he was released, again, he's green card holder, Mohsen Madawi. And in a message to President Donald Trump saying, "I'm not afraid of you." According to the court filing, he had co-founded the Palestinian Student Union at Columbia after the October 7 Hamas terror attack. And so, yeah, politicians releasing statements following this. The president had a marathon cabinet meeting yesterday, and Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the U.S. has brought home 47 wrongfully detained Americans so far. Said 47 for the 47th president in the first 100 days. That's all credit to you, Mr. President. So now we're talking about 47 wrongfully detained Americans and from other countries. Earlier in the session, Vice President used that most of the presidents who's, have portraits in the Oval Office were mere placeholders who weren't men of action, he said. Interior Secretary Doug Burgum observed that Trump was not just courageous, you're actually fearless, he said. He's taking on issues that other presidents haven't dared to touch. Burgum said, all of us can sprint because you're running ahead. And so now this is why you get the headline, the Associated Press, Love Fest or Cabinet Meeting. For Donald Trump, it's both. And that is among the kinder of the headlines that I have seen this morning. The media is just, I just think the media is just more and more revealing who they are. They are just like, we're helpless. We're helpless. What do? We don't know what to do. It's just incredible. Okay, the U.S. economy contracted in the first quarter. I mentioned this to you previously. Commerce Department's Bureau of Economic Analysis released their advance estimate for first quarter gross domestic product on the U.S. economy contracted which is not good. It's contracting at an annual rate of 0.3% in the first quarter. Also, this, you ever heard about chemtrails? This came up, it used to be, I remember all this conversation about chemtrails back in the 1990s. I was just getting into talk radio at that time, and Art Bell was on it talking about these chemtrails, you know, airplane chemtrails and what's in these chemtrails. And so on, Florida is moving to outlaw chemtrails. Some are calling it conspiracy theory, so it's kind of fired up that whole thing again. And I remember having listeners on the air. This is when I was first getting into talk radio. I mean, very new at it. I mean, in my first maybe couple of years. And, you know, Art Bell would be on Coast to Coast AM talking about chemtrails. And, oh, man, I had people who would call me, and they were true believers, man. Those chemtrails were. So that apparently there's some resurgence surrounding that. And that's a look at the stories that are trending this morning in Belf's News Gallery. It's great to have you along this morning, 6:57. Mostly cloudy and 50 this hour of the Greg Belfrage Show, brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month. Well, thank you so much, guys, for letting me join you. As you know, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'll see you during the fourth hour coming up later today. Take care until then. Chemtrails.